Think before you leap. Yo, what's going on? It's someone that's known here, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report is coming from Soren off Erowid. When this happened, 2008, the drug used was caffeine at a dose of 400 milligrams. The route of administration was through caffeine tablets. Gender, male. Weight, 170 pounds. Age, 15. Prior experience, none. And the setting includes a variety of locations. So today we're doing a caffeine reports, and like the nicotine reports or like the CBD reports, some of you guys might be like, okay, why the fuck are we doing a caffeine report? Well, caffeine, it is, pretty impactful on its own, and most people don't really consider it, that strong of a substance, even though, it can lead you to some pretty uncomfortable states, as we'll see here. So I think you guys are going to enjoy this one. And without further ado, let's dive right into it. Although I have a soda or two a day, I have ADHD, so low doses of caffeine calm me, if anything. The past couple of days, I have been eating very little and sleeping horribly, and for short amounts of time, which probably had a bit to do with the agony of my experience, especially since I normally have extremely healthy sleeping patterns, and I have a normal appetite for a 15-year-old. Yesterday, I woke up at 1:30 in the afternoon and went across the street to hang out. At midnight, we went to Denny's to play Dungeons & Dragons. This was a Thursday night, and I do community service every Friday morning from 8 to 11. I knew we'd be there for a long time, and I wouldn't be able to get some sleep. My cousin's friend obsessively carries around caffeine pills, which he is extremely generous with. So, I asked him for 2, at about 1 in the morning. I had taken 1 or 2 once or twice before, with no effect whatsoever. So after popping these 2, I asked for 2 more to keep in my pocket for hospice later. After about 45 minutes, I felt nothing. So without saying anything to anyone about it, I pop another 2 pills. Big mistake. Very soon, I start to feel it. I can only describe it as this bizarre feeling in my bones that just screams, move, 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 move. So I was fidgeting an awful lot, and if I wasn't so nauseated, dizzy, and confused, I'd be running all over the place. I had to go to the bathroom an awful lot too. I urinated several times each hour, all night and day. Also, thank God nobody else was there, because I had horrific diarrhea. I had no idea my body could hold so much, especially after eating so little. And I have irritable bowel syndrome, and I have had some horrific stomach pain. Let me make this perfectly clear. This was the worst stomach pain I have ever had. It felt like there was something inside of me, squeezing my intestines. My hands started shaking a little, and I got pretty scared. I would zone out frequently, and got the chills, then a fever, and sometimes both at the same time, all over, or sometimes part of me would be cold, another part hot. I felt the intense need to concentrate on something, anything. So I started to draw one of my favorite little original comic characters to draw. I couldn't focus, and my hands were shaking so much that he looked absolutely horrible. Circles in reasonably straight lines were impossible, no matter how slowly I drew. My sense of time got a little weird. Like, after ages of D&D, I'd look at the clock, and not even 5 minutes would pass. But I'd go to the bathroom, piss really quickly, and it would have taken 10 minutes. Sometimes the minutes jumped by, other times they dragged on. It was bizarre. Eventually, it was 5 a.m. We paid. I was hopping in fucking circles, squirming, darting my eyes all over the place, paranoid as hell. When we got into the van, I struggled to sit still, but my body was way too exhausted to squirm like a 5-year-old. Then, when we got out, I ran across the street to my house, down the 4 stairs to the bathroom, because if I got there a second later, I would have shit my white pants. Then, I was absolutely exhausted from my little run and struggled to catch my breath. Afterward, I struggled up the 4 stairs and into the garage to go on Google and try and figure out what to do. See, at this point, I had taken my temperature, which was 101 degrees. and being the wimp I am, feeling like I'm burning to death when my temperature is 99 degrees, I felt horribly. I seriously felt like I was dying. The fucking devil was squeezing my intestines with razor-sharp fingernails. My head felt like it was going to burst, and I was paranoid as all hell, darting my eyes around and making sure there wasn't an axe murderer in the room. I found nothing on what to do, except for emergency information. I was hoping to find out what I could do to make myself more comfortable. For instance, was it safe to take medicine? Should I eat, sleep, or what? I felt like absolute shit and needed to kill some time. So I decided to take a shower, putting it to the hottest temperature possible, which was incredibly relaxing, and cleared my sinuses, making it a bit easier to breathe. Then I put it on the coldest and stayed in there for about an hour. I left the shower, taking my temperature again, and it went down 2 degrees. I still felt like I was going to die, just not as much as before. I was still nauseated, but my bowels were empty as could be, and I was drinking a lot of ice water. I got so dehydrated, and whatnot. I lounged around nude in my bedroom for about a half an hour, my body aching too much to do anything. Again, with a warped sense of time, it felt like 3 minutes, and then it was 7, and I had to start getting ready. I still couldn't force myself to eat, but I did whine to my mom about how horribly I felt, and she promised to pick me up at 10 instead of 11. I work in the kitchen, and for the first hour we sat around waiting for the patients to wake up, and the nurses to give us their orders. My legs hurt too much to stand, but sitting caused me to nod off. Conversation was like fucking rocket science due to my lack of attention span and overall confusion. Again, fucked up sense of time, and soon an hour had passed. By this time, I had taken my pulse. Usually it's about 85 beats a minute. It was 108. I would walk 3 feet to the other side of the kitchen to get milk out of the fridge and be panting. My breathing was very slow and labored, partially due to the tremendous efforts not to vomit, but mostly because I was horribly out of breath. My face became flushed. I visibly looked like shit. Not as horrible as I did about 4 or 5 hours ago, but I still looked pretty bad. Almost as if by a miracle, I made it through those 2 hours without dying. I signed out and waited a minute for my mom. We went to Home Depot and I waited in the truck. I never knew that sitting in a truck with a nice, cold air blasting could produce so much sweat, or make one be so out of breath. I got very paranoid again, wondering if I was going to die, pass out, or what. I decided I would pass out, not be able to breathe, then die. My mother came out with what she needed, and some beef jerky, and a Coke for me. Then she remembered I was sick because of the amount of caffeine in my body, and felt like an idiot. The jerky just made me more hungry, but I was too nauseated to eat when I came home. At this point, it was 10:30. I took the pills at about 1, then 1:45. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't breathe, due to my clogged nose and my overall exhaustion, and I was extremely hungry. So I sat downstairs and ate the jerky. My conversational skills had improved significantly, my sense of humor returning, and my speech became slightly more relevant to the topic, but still not very much so, but my speech patterns are usually a little irrelevant or hard to follow. My bones were aching, and my body cried for sleep and more food. My mother, out of pity, took me to Publix for nasal spray and sushi. I frequently made her stop so I could catch my breath, and I was still flushed and sweaty. About 45 minutes, 15 squirts of nasal spray in each nostril, 7 pieces of sushi, and 1 ice-cold shower later, I went to sleep. It was about 1 p.m. at this point. My fever went down a little, but I otherwise felt horrible. The minute my eyes were shut and my head hit the pillow, I fell asleep. 4 hours later, my mom woke me up to tell me some good news. I went downstairs, grabbing my Coke from earlier and my remaining sushi. My hands were shaking, and I was too weak to open the bottle. The sushi made me feel better, but I had a throbbing headache. It's 9 p.m. now. I've eaten 3 bites out of a package of microwavable lasagna since then. My breathing is a little bit abnormal, and my heart's still a little bit fast, My fever is 100 degrees and I'm painfully nauseated still. I'm still working on that bottle of Coke, but I've drank 3 bottles of water in the past 4 hours. I go to the bathroom almost literally once every 5 minutes. The devil's still squeezing every last bit of fecal matter out of my intestines, but thankfully I haven't vomited yet. Well, I did a couple of times, just a little in my mouth, but that doesn't really count. My hands are still shaking, and I think I'm going to need another cold shower. I'm going to sleep shortly. I'm struggling to stay awake, typing this. I'm still sort of confused, and my normally impeccable typing skills are pretty shitty. It took me an extremely long time to gather the concentration to write this. I'm not sure if the bizarre feeling in my bones is a compulsion to move or extreme fatigue. Reading up on caffeine, it's pretty clear that tougher people than me, with more experience with sleeplessness, caffeine, and not eating regularly, can get pretty fucking sick from more than 250 milligrams of this shit, and it seems most do it because of the misconception that legal equals not absolutely horrific in excess. Also, many people don't know how much is too much. Like me, I had no idea that caffeine could make people so sick. I'm pretty proud to say I've survived this. Haha. It really did toughen me up a bit, and it's kind of made me appreciate my health a lot more. It strengthened my position that nobody should take any substance without a wealth of knowledge on it, and preferably a mentor of some sort who was experienced with it, especially stupid-ass teenagers like myself. I have never smoked or taken more than a sip of alcohol. I've taken a couple of my mom's painkillers or muscle relaxers with her permission whenever over-the-counter stuff didn't do the trick, and that shit would get me 3 sheets to the wind. Granted, I've always been extremely curious about certain psychoactive drugs, mainly for their mind-opening abilities. Any temptation has been temporarily squelched because of my caffeine gone wrong experience. I've learned I don't have the knowledge or maturity to use any mind-altering substance quite yet, and that the effects are not fun at all. I did not even enjoy the positive effects before I came crashing down. I will never touch a stimulant again, with the exception of the occasional soda, especially for the purpose of staying awake. Next time, I'll try something a little healthier, like doing some freaking jumping jacks or drinking some cold water, which works an awful lot better for me. Alright, this was a good example of a caffeine overdose, a good forewarning for some of those who want to try and get high off caffeine. Usually the physical effects will overpower any chance of a good time. You'll start feeling sick as fuck usually, and normally your body will try to expel it, especially taking 400 milligrams with no tolerance. That's why we see a lot of nausea, the need to go to the toilet so much, and other negative side effects for Soren. And I think the shittiest part is, you're pretty hyperactive the whole time. You're going to probably end up shaking and trying to get a hold of yourself, wishing you'd never done it. But beyond that, what exactly is there to say about caffeine that isn't known already? And like I said before, I don't mean to take this too lightly, because I do feel like there is a good amount of people who don't take it very seriously, but it can provide some pretty pronounced effects from a physical standpoint especially. It can lead to lack of sleep, getting nervous, and other unhealthy habits down the line. But other than that, it is caffeine. It is an experience on its own. We haven't had a caffeine report yet, so this is pretty much just to present it. I do find it interesting, though, that the overdose effects are pretty similar to a nicotine overdose, feeling sick, stimulated, nauseous, chills, and more. And if you did overdose caffeine, hopefully by accident, best thing to do would be to get hydrated, and if you're up for it, try to walk it off. Shit's probably going to suck for a few hours, but at the end of the day, you're going to live. So with that, we're going to end it there. If you guys did enjoy this report, want to see any more caffeine reports or any substance at all, let me know in the comments below and we'll get to that. If you guys like this video, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, follow the socials. It's been someone that's no one, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.